Hi again, this is Brandon Blair from TechStep Academy, and today we're going to automate for the first time. Right? We're going to perform our first front-end automation by opening up a browser programmatically and having a little bit of fun with that. So quick prerequisite, right? If you have not done so, you need to go back and complete the virtual environment setup tutorial, right? That's absolutely crucial. It plays into every single tutorial that we perform here, every session. And then there is a short Python and Selenium environmental setup tutorial that you need to accomplish, which will make sure that you have all of your paths set correctly, everything downloaded and put into the right place. Because if you don't do that, you're very likely to run into a lot of frustrating problems. And I want you to have the smoothest experience possible, right? So if you haven't accomplished those, pause this, go back and accomplish them, and I'll be right here when you get back. And if you're all ready to go and your screen looks a lot like mine, which means, by the way, go and activate your virtual environment if you have not already. You should see this little indication that, hey, we're good to go. Our virtual environment is activated. We can go ahead and get started. Now, you'll notice on the left side of my screen, a couple housekeeping items here. There's kind of a dark black void over here, right? That's by design. We're not going to open the browser manually. We're going to use Python and let that speak with Selenium through the WebDriver and let that open the browser automatically, right? So you will see a browser open up there once we get to that step. There's just nothing there now because we haven't opened a browser. The second and very important item is I don't want you to follow along with me for the first go through, right? I'd prefer that, because otherwise you're going to be trying to catch up and it's going to stress you out. So I'd like to just guide you through a demo of what we're going to do, and then we will loop back and I will accomplish everything much more slowly and deliberately with the intention of you following along at home. So without further ado, let's get started. So I'm going to get into a Python instance here. And the first thing I'm going to do is get a WebDriver. That's the method or the package I'm going to need to go ahead and start automating using browsers. Okay, and now I'm going to assign an instance of a WebDriver to a variable called browser, because that seems to make sense. Today we're going to be using Chrome. Okay, Chrome driver is the only one I downloaded. If I needed to use Firefox or IE or Safari, I would have to go and download those web drivers, put them in the right place, and add that to the path, right? Which again goes back to that tutorial. So you should see one pop up. There we go. Nice clean slate, right? Ready for nice canvas, ready for a new day of adventure here. So let's go ahead and go somewhere. Sorry, I don't have anything exciting. We're just going to try Google for now because it's a pretty common site. Boom, that was quick. All right, so we can tell what day this is, right? It's now officially Halloween, apparently. So what do we see here, right? What are we going to do now? We can't just go around, using .get and navigating around, because then we'd never get anything done, right? We need to actually interact with the page in some useful way. And the way we do that is you're going to see me come over here and start investigating, doing some detective work. Where are the levers on this page and how can I pull them, okay? The first lever that I need to pull is I need to get some text into here. I'd like to go ahead and search something. That's our little use case for today. Can we successfully perform a search action automatically, right, using automation? So to do that, I'm going to inspect this search bar here. Inspect, I believe Chrome and Firefox both have this. It's very, very handy. So you'll notice that, again, every page has a page source, right? It's a bunch of HTML and JavaScript and all sorts of stuff, right? All of this mess eventually makes up what you see here in terms of you've got CSS, which is handling your styling. You've got JavaScript, which can be performing all sorts of back-end calls or doing performing verification when you're filling out forms and all sorts of advanced stuff, right? What it really boils down to is there's a lot of stuff going on here. You need to know where in that mess to find what you want and what you need to do with it. So for me, the easiest way, in my opinion, is to use inspect. Because what it will do, I don't like that over there. If you don't want this on the right side, like me, you can hit these three dots here, not these ones right here, and change your dock side to the bottom. I much prefer that. Now, because this is, and when you open up a browser in an automated session, it's completely clean of settings. So the next time you open up one via automation, if you try to go into your inspect, your dev tools again, it's going to be on the side again. But if you're manually testing and you change that setting in your browser, it's going to stick, okay? So I have discovered, as I move through this hierarchy here, you can see it's highlighting a bunch of stuff. So what that should tell you is this is giving you an idea of, well, what these are, right? Where's this div? We see that our input, and again, if you lose yourself up here and you can't remember where you were, we can just right click here and go to inspect again. And there we are. So I need two pieces of information to find an element, right? What we're essentially doing when we automate is we are going through this cycle, through the front end, when we're automating the front end rather, using browser automation. The cycle is that we are looking for an element that we want to manipulate or verify. We assign that element to a variable, and then we either manipulate or verify it, right? Perform some actions against it. That's basically the whole cycle. So it looks something like this. I need to manipulate this search field. I need to send some text to it. So I know it is an element of type input, right? So let's start over here. Now, in order for me to cast that net, right, to try and capture this element, I need to find something unique about it and use that to search for it, right? You've ever seen the movies where there's someone with, their psionic powers or something, and you show them a picture of a person and they can go and find that person. It's sort of like that. I have to say, okay, I'm looking for an input, and here's some other information. Now go get me that element, right? So we want to be as specific as possible. So I can look through some of the candidates here for things I can use to describe my element. I know it's an input. There's a class there, but the problem is classes can be applied to multiple elements, so that's not a really good unique one. ID, that should technically be unique, but over here we have a name. And name isn't always the best way to find an element, but this one's nice and short, and I'm just going to hope it's unique, and I'm going to try that today. So what we do is we use a method on the WebDriver object. Remember, we assigned our browser, our WebDriver browser, to the browser variable, and the method is called find element. Makes sense, right? By CSS selector, all with underscores, right? I'm going to give it a string, which is going to be the CSS selector. You don't have to understand what a CSS selector is. It's one of a few ways of finding an element. We'll go over those more deeply in the next tutorial. But I'm going to use it to kind of hone in on what I need, right? So I need an input, I know that. And I'm going to use brackets, which says, hey, I'm going to describe that input for you, right? Well, it has a name of what? So I go back over here, name of Q. Now, first time is rarely a charm when doing these things. There's a lot of pain and suffering in automation, so let's see if I get lucky. Nothing appears to jump out at me. That's a good sign. Nothing exploded, right? So now it's time to manipulate that element. It looks like we got it. Let's confirm. Did we get that search field? Okay, I have a web element. That is a good sign. Now we can do something to that web element. I'm going to send keys, which just means type something there. And there we are. If you look on the left, it populated that that search field. Well, that's half the battle, right? Now we need to send that search result, or send that search, right? So we could send an enter key, but that's no fun. Let's manipulate a button, right? So we're going to go through that same process again. Right click, inspect, another input, right? There's a value of Google search. I don't really want to use the value because that can change with different languages. So I see we have another name, button K, BTN capital K. I'll try that. So again, we're casting the net and we're assigning it to a variable. So we'll call this search button. And it's a browser method, right? It's the WebDriver that is performing the find. So we're using the WebDriver element. Or sorry, the WebDriver object. Find element by CSS selector. I'm going to use double quotes there. So it's an input. Let's describe it. Has a name of button K. Ooh. All right. I have to use single quotes here. If I don't, then this double quoted string will break right here, right? And that would be bad. So again, first time is rarely a charm, but if the universe is a just place, then this should give us that element. Okay, good news. Well, the only thing we have left to do then is to pull that lever, right? So what I expect is I'm going to click that button and it should send that search, and we should end up at the search results page. Here we go. Okay. Good, right? So that all worked out. So there's the example, right? We navigated to a page. We saw a couple elements we wanted to manipulate. We manipulated them, and we clicked that button and ended up with search results. This is where typically we would perform some asserts or look at this page and validate something, right? And therein lies kind of what front-end automation is useful for, right? It's more of the user experience. So let's go ahead and circle back. And I want you to follow with me this time. I'll go a little bit slower. I probably should have closed out that window before exiting out, but you know, I'll take my lumps and we'll do it next time. So I'm going to clear the window. Go ahead and this time jump on in with me here. Let's go into Python. Again, make sure your virtual environment is activated. And so we're going to get that WebDriver. From Selenium, import WebDriver. All right, this was the moment of truth for those of you who claimed that you had gone through the first two tutorials. If it blows up here and it says you don't have Selenium, then there's a couple things you need to check. You need to make sure your virtual environment is activated, right? And if it is activated, you need to make sure that you properly installed Selenium in that virtual environment, which means doing like a pip list, making sure that you see Selenium there. If not, then you should probably go back and reaccomplish that tutorial. So we've got our WebDriver. Let's make a browser. Browser equals WebDriver. And which one are we going to use? Well, for today, we're going to use Chrome. That's a capital C. And let's go ahead and get that browser. You should see a browser window pop up somewhere on your screen. And there we have it. All right, I have to click back into my code window here because it will take focus off of whatever you're doing when that window pops up. So next step, you know, why wait around? Let's go somewhere. Get is the command to navigate, right? To get somewhere. So let's go ahead and let's get Google, right? Now, this is a string we're passing it, so remember the quotes. Here's the other biggie. If you don't put a protocol in there, it will get angry. Okay, you can see unknown error, unhandled inspection error, cannot navigate to invalid URL. Okay, well that tells us something about our URL was bad. And, well, here's the deal. You have to have a protocol, right? Be it HTTP, HTTPS. Let's go ahead and try that. So you have your browser.get, http://google.com as a string. Let's go. Boom. I'm there. I hope you're there. If you're not, Google that error. If you find yourself floundering and you can't get any further, reach out, let me know, and we'll figure it out. Okay, so it's time to do our detective work. What did I say? I said we need to cast our nets, find the elements that we want to manipulate, and then manipulate them. So we need to get this search element, right? The search field element, assign it to a variable, do something to it. We need to find the Google search button element, assign that to a variable, and then do something to that, right? So let's start with the search field. Do you remember what has that find method on it? It's going to be that browser, which is a WebDriver object, right? We're going to use find element. And today, you don't need to understand what a CSS selector is, although it's a good Google. We'll go, again, more in depth on the next tutorial, but I want you to use CSS selector for today's example. Find element by CSS selector, all with underscore. And let's take a look at our patient over here. Right click, go to inspect. Again, we have to remove this annoyance over here, so not this one. Click here and let's move it down to the bottom. So here we have the input again. It should look familiar. Here we have the name of Q. Whoa, I lost it. All right, so again, when we get lost, what do? Right click, let's inspect. I got a little excited. So here's the name. The name is just the letter Q, so let's try that. It is a element of type input. Now let's describe it. That means open and close your brackets. Let's go inside those brackets and let's describe this input so that we don't end up with the wrong one. We know it has a name. We have to use quotes. We can't use double quotes because, again, that would break the string that starts here. We'll use single quotes so it's protected. So the name is, well, let's double check. Q, right? So you've got your string, element type, you describe the element. First time is never a charm, but, you know, here's to hoping that you have success. Okay, all was good on my end. I hope all was good on yours. Now let's check. Just type the name of your variable and hit enter. I have a web element. If I have a web element and you do too, then let's send it some keys. Send keys is the method we use to send textual information to the browser. So we're going to send it a string, right? So use quotes and send it whatever you'd like to search. I'm going to search something boring, I know, but hey. Okay, so search field, that's my element, my web element, dot send keys. I'm sending it a string saying, hey, these are the keys I want you to take, right, and display. Python automation with Selenium. I'm going to hit enter and pray for mercy. All right. There we are. Python automation with Selenium. So now it's time to get that Google search button and click it, right? So again, same thing. Investigate, detective work, right click, inspect. Another input, Watson, right? So another name, which we can use. And again, name is not always the best to use. It's just in this case, it's fairly unique and simple. I'm going to call this search BTN for search button. Equals, again, we're using the browser, and we're going to find element by CSS selector, same as before. What element do we want to find? We want to find an input, right? Now let's describe it. Square brackets. What type of input? What does he look like? Well, he's got a name, and his name is, survey says, BTN capital K. So I often like to copy and paste so I don't fat finger something the wrong way. BTNK, okay. And let's hope for the best. Okay, looks good. Here's the moment of truth for all of us. Proudly type out your search button, type click. Click is a method, so you need to have those parentheses. And let's all hope we end up in the same place on the other side. Okay. And if you did, then pat yourself on the back. Congratulations, you've just performed your first automated test, right? You have navigated using Python to a website. You have then interacted with the elements, and now we're ready to validate and verify all we want. So that's it. I mean, that is, in summation, what at its most basic level, what front-end automation is. It is a cycle of investigating, finding what elements we want to manipulate, and capturing those elements as objects, acting on the elements, and then performing a validation at the end. I really, really enjoy automating on the front end. I think it's a lot of fun. It can be frustrating at times, but the rewards are always worth it. And next tutorial, we're going to be going a little bit deeper into some different ways to find those elements, kind of what they mean. We're just going to try to build a nicer, fuller picture of what's really going on so that you can confidently move forward as you write your automation. So if you have any questions, feel free to send them out. Again, I'm Brandon Blair with TechStep Academy. Hope you enjoyed it. And stick around for the next session because things are about to get very interesting.